News, rumors and opinions Sunday, March 9, 2025. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. KTFA. Frank 26. Al-Sudani knows whose side he is on, F26. America calls on Iraq to end dependence on Iranian energy and welcomes al-Sudani's commitment. The 6th of March 2025. The U.S. State Department called on Iraq to stop relying on Iranian energy sources as soon as possible. In response to whether Washington has reached a deal to renew Iraq's exemption from sanctions on Iranian gas imports, which expires tomorrow, Saturday. U.S. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce said, "At this point, we have nothing to announce regarding the current electricity exemption, which expires on March 8. We are reviewing all existing sanctions waivers that provide any measure of economic and financial relief," she added. The spokeswoman welcomed the commitment of Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to achieve energy independence, expressing her hope that the United States would lead the way when it comes to this type of approach. Iraq currently produces 27,000 megawatts of electricity through stations, most of which operate on gas, but the production capacity sometimes drops to 17,000 megawatts. This amount, at its maximum, does not meet the country's electricity needs, as Iraq needs to increase production to reach 40,000 megawatts in order to ensure the provision of energy around the clock. To solve this crisis, Iraq resorted to importing quantities of Iranian gas, which threatened to expose it to U.S. sanctions, before the United States granted it an exemption that is renewed periodically. With U.S. President Donald Trump returning to power, he pledged to pursue a policy of maximum pressure towards Iran. As a result, the Iraqi government asked the new U.S. administration to extend the waiver granted by the previous administration, according to previous statements by al-Sudani in an interview with a Shark. Al-Sudani touched on the issue of ending dependence on Iranian supplies during the interview, noting that the country plans to completely end gas imports by 2028, adding, "There will be clear energy independence." He continued, "Ultimately, we need this exception to continue throughout this period. At the same time, we have started the process of linking energy with neighboring countries in order to cover our needs, and this is part of the concept of integration that we seek with our brothers." This is not the first statement of its kind, but rather comes just days after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, where they discussed Iranian influence in the region, and Rubio urged Iraq to achieve energy independence. The new U.S. statement may not mean that Washington will not renew the exemption granted to Iraq, but it indicates increased pressure on Baghdad to get rid of these supplies. The comments come hours after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed that the U.S. would tighten sanctions on Iran, adding that the U.S. would shut down the country's oil sector using predetermined criteria and timelines. He hinted that making Iran bankrupt again would be the beginning of our updated sanctions policy. The Treasury Secretary suggested that the United States could work with regional actors to help Iran get its oil to market. One of those countries is likely to be Russia, which earlier this week signaled its willingness to help the United States in talks with Iran over ending its nuclear program and its support for anti-American regional proxies. Treasury is prepared to engage in frank discussions with these countries, Bessent said. "We will work to shut down Iran's oil sector and drone manufacturing capabilities." Frank 26. Security and stability for the monetary reform comes in many ways, F26. Trump reveals he sent a letter to Iran to negotiate on the nuclear. The 7th of March 2025. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Friday that he had sent a letter to Iran to negotiate an agreement on nuclear weapons. Trump said during an interview with Fox Business that he wants to negotiate an agreement regarding the nuclear weapons program. "I sent a letter yesterday, Thursday, to the leader of Iran to negotiate an agreement," he added, expressing his hope to negotiate an agreement regarding the nuclear weapons program with Iran. Bloomberg reported last Tuesday that Russia had agreed to help the Trump administration communicate with Iran on various issues, including Tehran's nuclear program and its support for anti-U.S. proxies in the region. Russia believes that the United States and Iran should resolve their common issues through negotiations. Moscow is ready to do everything in its power to help achieve this, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was quoted as saying by Bloomberg, which was circulated by Russian state media. Militiamen the informal market are now feeling the pinch because they're having a harder time to get the dollar. They're going to have to pay a lot more for it. You can go to the central bank and get it for $13.20 instead of $14.60, $1,500, $1,600. But it's probably going to climb. Are we concerned about it? No, because the parallel market is insignificant in comparison to the total market. It's about 5%. 95% of the people that are doing business are doing it properly, which is huge. FNULNUI reported some time back that Maliki had been caught with a jet filled with dinar attempting to depart for Switzerland. The jet was initially detained but ultimately allowed to depart Iraq. I saw video of the detainment and the interior of the plane, and judging by the volume of dinar on board, it had to be multiple trillions of dinar. Now Iraq wants it back. Article. Iraq's Federal Commission of Integrity, COI, has called on United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, member states to enhance legal cooperation in recovering stolen assets and illicit funds. Swiss Ambassador Daniel Hun praised Iraq's reconstruction efforts, affirming Switzerland's readiness to cooperate in recovering stolen assets, and confirmed that Swiss authorities are actively working with Iraq to facilitate the repatriation of funds. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: dinarrecaps.com